All right. It is 1 o'clock, top of the hour. We want to jump in right now. So, welcome everyone. We really appreciate you being here. I want to get clear about what to expect today, and then we're going to jump right in. So, first thing to know is there's no script for today's call. Aaron and I, we work from an outline. We have 4 or 5 things we want to talk about. We will be just as surprised about what we say as everybody else. And this is what we're hoping to do is give you the experience of when Aaron and I hang out, which I fly down to Baltimore once in a while. We've worked together in the past where we talk every Friday. And we kind of have a few ideas we want to talk about and off we go. We're going to try to do that for about an hour and then answer questions, but I'm sure it won't be that elegant. We'll probably answer some questions along the way, and who knows. We're going to try to keep each session to 90 minutes. No promises. If there are great questions that seem beneficial to everyone, we'll stick around for a while. This is about creating value for you. So that's our intent. We're not going to be on video for a few reasons. One, I know it's distracting for me. I hate seeing myself on video. It adds no value. Trust me. I like to say I have a face for radio, but there's no benefit from that. So we're real people, this is not AI generated. We're sitting behind our computers right now. It's about the content. So let's jump in. Aaron, I think you wanted to say something too before we get started?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of our partners, the folks who helped us get everyone here today. So Shawn, obviously your Modern Market, your MMS folks, Offer Essentials, Masterclass, and Sales Page Essentials, our 2 programs from last year. All those folks who are joining us, the folks from Deadline, Funnel, Marketing, Rebel. I think Stan said he might be on the call. He might actually be here. So thank you to Stan and John. We appreciate you being a part of this. David Deutsch, obviously, we were so fantastically happy to have his participation. Thank you. All the folks who are here from David's list. He's been a mentor and a friend to me for years. And Shawn, I know you and he too. So thank you for helping people find us. The folks at The Fix, copy that. David Garfinkel as well. I'm probably like the most overused guest on his show. I've been on his show 3 times just in the last couple months. The last appearance talking specifically about what you and I want to do here. He's just been enormously generous with his time. So Garf, thank you so much. And Chris Orzakowski as well. He sent a fantastic email for us. So no matter where you come from, we're happy to have you here. We're looking forward to these next 3 days. And like Shawn said, we have an outline of things that we want to cover, but as we get rolling, we want to know too what's important to you. What are the issues and the roadblocks that you're facing? Pop those things as you think of them into the Q&A. And like Shawn said again, the last 30-35 minutes, as much time as we have, we want to address as many particular specific questions from you as we possibly can. We want to make this as valuable for you, pointed at you as we possibly can. Shawn?
All right, so we are going to get something out of the way fast, which is we want to talk about the F word, right? And I keep saying over and over in emails, it's not that F word. It's the other one, which is funnel. Funnel seems to trigger a lot of people. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I've been doing this for a while. I've seen all the magic funnel things, and I've seen all the promises, and I know that overwhelmingly they're bullshit, right? So let's talk about what we mean when we say a funnel, and how it might be different than what you think we're talking about. So we're just all starting on the same page. So from our perspective, a funnel is any system where engagement declines over time, right? It's just a visual metaphor, right? It's convenient to do that, but it may take this system it may be minutes, right? You might see an ad on Facebook and you go to a landing page and then there's an upsell and there's on and on and on. That's what people typically think about. Could be a webinar, could be something else, could be hours, right? Your funnel might take days. Some funnels might take months. Some funnels even take years. Dean Jackson has talked about this extensively, and it's a brilliant insight that when he looked at his clients and looked at customers, people who had become customers over a 2-year period, what he found was that 90% of the people who became customers in a 2-year period did so after the first 90 days, right? 5 times the amount, five times the impact after 90 days. Is that still a funnel? Yes, of course it's a funnel. It is any system where engagement declines over time. 100 people come to your landing page and 60 just leave because it's not for them. and then 40 proceed, and then they read some emails, and then they see an offer a week later, still a funnel, right? So let's not get hung up on the term. However, we want to be very clear. There is no one size fits all template. Right? We're talking about principles, about guidelines, maybe some guardrails, what to avoid. I've been doing this for 28 years, and I can tell you that I have never, in nearly 3 decades, seen a causal relationship between how you do the work and the results that you get. Period. There is no magic system that guarantees results. Different audiences respond to different structures. It's different time frames, different things going on in the world. There is no one thing that you can do that's like, oh, if you get these 3 steps in this particular order, you're going to make $1 million. That's not my experience. So what we want to show you instead are the principles that we've seen that can apply to anything that looks like a funnel from that perspective. Aaron, I'm sure you have thoughts on this too, so I'm going to stop preaching for a moment. It feels like
no, that was a great start. I'm glad you said that. I was unaware until relatively recently that funnel is a 4-letter word for some people, that they think that there's this ickiness to it, or it's template, it's off the shelf, it doesn't apply to me or my business or what I want to do. So the word that I like to use in replacement is journey. What decisions lead me to take action, to make a purchase with you today? And then how do you make sure that I'm the happiest customer I can possibly be? And then what happens next? What does that journey look like to take me to the next place, the next purchase? Whether that's something that complements what I bought, whether that's something that takes it to another level. So if you're upset by the word funnel, which I'm not, like I said, we're just, this is an idea that's out there. Replace it with the word journey. What does that journey look like to help that customer reach their destination of maximum delight, where the problems that you're solving, the ease that you're bringing to their life, whatever those rewards may be, you can do so at a higher and higher level all along the way. The analogy that I make sometimes when I explain journey funnel to a junior copywriter, for example, is like the last 5 minutes of the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. It's been out for over 10 years, so I'm going to talk about it. And I don't need to like spoil the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. That's not what I'm trying to do. But he gets home from Mars, and in the very last scene, he's now teaching students who want to become astronauts themselves. And the story that he tells is what you find yourself in a position where you're faced with a terrible, you need to solve problems one after another. He's like, it's just math. Solve the first problem, right? So for us, let's get that first commitment, whatever that looks like. What's the journey? What's the funnel? What does it look like next? What happens next? And how he puts it in the movie is, if you solve enough problems one after another, no matter what the situation is that you're facing, you get to come home, right? And that's what he did. He overcame being stranded on Mars. So I think of constructing a customer journey, no matter how they meet me, no matter where the origin of that relationship is, what does that look like in each and every step? And how can I make the smartest decision to make sure that person wants to stay with me, wants to stay with what I do, and continue to go up the ladder with me as well?
And let's be honest, full journey formula doesn't sound nearly as good, right? I mean, I love alliteration. That's largely where that came from. And of course, full funnel formula is a play on words, right? It's a full funnel from customer acquisition to your, bump offers and, upsells, some sort of ascension, a core offer, high ticket. Like that's a full funnel that you might have eventually. And of course, we all want full funnels of customers, right? So full journey funnel just doesn't work quite as well. Before we jump into the first part of this, which is offers versus products and understanding what actually an offer is, because that's where everything starts. Let's get very clear about a fundamental principle. Earlier, I said that I've never seen any causal relationship between the way something works and the results you get. However, I have seen an ironclad rule working with, I've worked with 225, 250-ish clients over 21 years running an agency, plus I worked with clients before that, plus I run my own business. There's one principle that is inviolable. It is always true, which is if you get the offer right, everything is easier. And if you get the offer wrong, nothing is easy, right? There's nothing more true than that. When you figure out how to get your offer right, you can do so many things wrong And people still show up because the offer's right. It's tuned into what they want. But if you get that offer wrong, there's no marketing trickery, persuasion, magic, anything that you can do that's going to make your life that much easier. All right, let's jump into offers versus products. I'm going to go through a few. I think what I'll do, Aaron, is I'm going to go through my initial bullets here, and then I'm just going to hand it over to you, and then we'll do the ping pong thing. But interrupt me because once I get going, just interrupt me if you want to contribute to any of these particular.
Sure will. Go for it.
You're thinking.
Go for it.
So when we talk about offers versus products, the first thing you have to understand is your product is not your offer, right? Your offers include products generally, and a product can be digital, it can be real, it can be other things, but your product is not your offer. Here, let me give you a couple of examples. Let's just assume for the sake of argument that you have a digital course or you want to create a digital course, right? That's not your offer. What if you deliver it live versus delivering it free? What if you do, there's a done with your customer component, like there's some one-on-one engagement with your customer, right? That's a little bit different. What if it's only available for a certain period of time because there's a live component after people buy it, right? There are infinite number of variables that go into creating the actual offer, right? It's not just price, it's not just bonuses, it's not just the time that it's offered. It's all of the things that come together that make your offer whole, right? Broadly speaking, you can think of different types of offers. There are DIY offers, like somebody learns how to do the thing, right? There's a done with you offer. Maybe you're looking over somebody's shoulder and helping them out. There's done for you, like that's an agency model, for example, right? So if we go back, I'll give you some examples. I created a course years ago called the Traffic Engine. I sort of try to take 20 years of experience running a lot of paid traffic and externalize my knowledge from that. That was a course sold where somebody could learn from me what I had learned over 20 years, entirely DIY. Now, I could have taken that course and added a component and said, set up your own campaigns and I'll look over your shoulder. Right? Totally different price point. I'll look over your shoulder and give you some feedback based on what you're doing. That's done with you. Different price point, different offer, same knowledge. Or I could say, hey, just get out of my way and let me do it for you. Let me just pay me a lot more money. I'll come in, I'll do the work for you, and then you get the results. Same knowledge, same underlying product, three wildly different offers, three wildly different price points. When I think about offers, when I distill it down, and that's how my brain works, I want to distill things down to their components. The way I think about it is that a great offer is a story that's emotionally compelling and it's logical and rational. A great offer, it feels right to your prospect and it makes sense. Those are the two necessary components. Right? It's got to feel like, yeah, this feels right. And when you take a step back and look at it, you go, yeah, that makes sense. Right? It makes sense that maybe DIY is $495, but done with me is $2,000. Right? That makes sense. It wouldn't make sense if I reversed that. I said, hey, if you just want to learn this yourself, it's $2,000. If you want me to help, it's $500. That doesn't make any sense. Right? So I'm sure we're going to go deep in this as the conversation unfolds, but this is, from my perspective, this is where it all starts. You have to understand that your offer and your product are not the same thing. All right, Aaron, make sense of something I just said. See where it goes.
Let me ask you a question. What can you give me an example? I do have something to say, but give me an example of offer and products being conflated, being put into the same thing. What's a mental positioning that someone would find themselves in where they're making that critical mistake, where they're putting the two things together, and how's that holding them back?
I see this happen so often with course creators, right? Or consultants too. Like they think like, oh, I help company. Like I'll do one from my own experience. I've had so many conversations with freelancers, with marketing freelancers, and they don't I want to be cautious how I say this because I don't want to offend anyone. It's really easy to think that like, oh, well, I know how to do X and it's $150 an hour. And if you buy more of my time, I give you a lower rate. Like that's my offer. And okay, maybe, but if you think about that knowledge in different ways, you can begin to take your expertise and match it to the needs of an audience, right? There are people out there who might need 10% of what you do really well and not all the other stuff, but they overvalue that 10%, right? So you can say like, for me, because I spend a lot of time running paid traffic, there were certain things. One of the skills that I had that was invisible to me for a long time was that I could go in and look at almost anyone's Google Ads account and save them 50% of their ad cost and increase the results, like improve their results and decrease their cost fundamentally. And I used to do that as part of my initial 90-day engagement with a customer. Right? They just got that for free. Later, I realized I could just do that as a service. I could just go in and say, look, I'll slash your cost by 50%. You can continue to manage it in the house after that. I'll improve your results. Write me a check. That's 25% of what I'll save you annualized, and off I go. And that was a much better business and a much better offer. And if you think about it from the customer's perspective, if I come to you and I say, look, pay me $5,000 a month and I'll run your paid traffic campaigns better than your internal team is doing it, okay, like that, sure. And I had some credibility and other things. But when I would walk in and say, look, you're spending $1 million, you're spending, let's say you're spending $2 million a year on Google traffic. I am certain that I can save you $1 million off the top and still improve your results. If I'm able to do that, I'll charge you $250,000. Are you willing to spend $250,000 to save $750,000? That's a wildly different offer. Right. So is that an example that makes sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes I get my own head here.
Would you agree? Would you agree that it kind of comes down to how well do you know your USP? Because I've seen this, and I've done a little bit in real estate. Let me give you an example. And this would go for like anyone in trades, right? A contractor, a plumber, an electrician, these things. When I built the fence at my house, I had 6 different quotes, and everybody came and pitched me why I should pick them essentially the same way. Where we use the highest quality materials, we do it like this, we do it like that, we have a large team, and adjusting for price, right? Like, so obviously I was most attracted to the lower prices versus the higher prices. But the one that I picked, the gentleman who gave me that estimate, who came to my house that day, completely reframed the conversation about my fence. It's going to be safe and secure. You're never going to have to worry about it. We use wood that's been pre-treated. Oh, by the way, our team is so large, even though you're getting X hundred feet of fence put up, we're going to be in and out in one day. Can we be here as early as 7 a.m.? Because we'll get started and we'll be out of here before close of business, before you're home from work, right? You can inspect everything, right? He knew the USP of what the person buying a fence actually needed to hear. And he was able to completely differentiate by putting up a fence from the rest of the competition. Most of them, 4 out of the 6 estimates, I'd say, were, this is the materials that we use, this is how much it's going to cost, this is the number of linear feet, this is the date that we think we can do it. Okay, what do you think? You in or you out? But they said absolutely nothing about what separated them, right? Real estate, the same thing. I've seen that before too. Well, what do you do? Well, I help people buy and sell houses. Really? Is that what you do? Well, yeah, that's a result. Of course, that's what you do. But you remove the stress and worry. You help with the paperwork. You help navigate the underwriting, nightmares and the things that come up. What you're doing is you're actually helping people transition from one stage of their life to the next to get into the new home that's perfect for them, right? That's what you're actually offering people. That's what you're actually about, right? So for me, it comes back to a complete and clean understanding of what's your USP. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate from everybody else who does the same thing? And when that gets clear, like you said, like you get those initial steps wrong, everything's hard. It's like walking through concrete. You get it right, the USP is clear. You know how you stand out, how you differentiate yourself from your competition and everybody else who does the same thing as you. Everything begins to get easier.
Yeah, and the whole time you were talking about that, I was thinking about bath fitters. And for those of you outside the United States who aren't familiar with bath fitters is a company that come in and imagine that they renovate your bathroom, but their USP is pretty straightforward. We come in, we're in and out in a day, right? You like whatever shape your bathroom is in right now. They either cover it, they replace it, whatever it is, but they come in and out one day. Right now, if we hold it out at arm's length, right? It's like, well, I could hire my tile guy, I could hire a GC, I could do this, I could renovate my bathroom probably for less. I could do it myself. I could do all of these things. But Bath Fitters has a crystal clear value proposition. It's like, look, you want a new bathroom. We'll get there early. We'll leave late. At the end of the day, you're going to be taking a shower in a new bathroom. Done. Right? One day. And that's a hell of an offer, right? Because it's this is the answer to the question that you asked before, which is this is how it always happens when we're talking, right? Uh, this is a perfect example of a product versus an offer. The product is the bathroom, right? That's the product, right? It's like, yep, you're going to have new shiny walls. You're going to have a nice tub. That it's the toilet's replaced, whatever. It's new sink. That's the product. Bath Fitters offer is you don't have to deal with a general contractor. You don't have to deal with a tile guy. You don't have to do. You just look at our catalog, pick out the stuff. We come in the morning, and when we leave, that's your bathroom. That's a hell of an offer versus, well, we show up and we feel like it. It might take 2 days, might take 3 weeks. Not sure. Oh, the tile guy didn't get there, so you're not going to have your bathroom, for 2 weeks longer than you thought. That's not a great offer, right? But bathroom in a day, that's a hell of an offer. All right, I want to keep us on track.
Wait. I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't want to jump ahead to the Q&A, but I popped into the Q&A and there was someone who asked about what would be a compelling offer for a home remodeling business. And it was anonymous. I'm sorry, I can't say your name or I'd point directly to you. Kind of what I just said there about the fence and standing apart from all the other quotes that I collected. We can talk more about that if you put more in the question, but hopefully anonymous attendee, that helps your question, because what I said there about the fence or how I've helped real estate agents over the years, that differentiation that you need to do, like the decision is, and Shawn, to go back to your example too, I've already made the decision that it's time for a new bathroom. That decision's made. Don't show up and sell me on bathrooms because that's already clear in my head. Go further, like think about the prospect. I'll talk more about this in a minute too. But think about what that prospect is actually facing and the things that they're hearing from your competition. And how are you going to stand apart and make everything easy? Well, what am I really worried about? All right, forget about bathroom. That decision's been made. I'm worried about the mess. I'm worried about how long's the water going to be off. I'm worried about the timeline. I'm worried about people traipsing through my house. Like, I'm worried about just all these different things. Just make a list of yeah, buts, all the different things that the prospect could be fretting about. Okay, so knock down those worries and again, you're doing this in emails, you're doing this in print pieces, you're doing this face-to-face, whatever your case may be. Do the work ahead of time where you're able to knock down the objections as the prospect would be coming up with them. Guess what? When that is over, when that pitch is done, you set that hook of what the value that you provide. When that's over with, you have a customer because no one else is talking to them in those terms. So that's a big picture of the principle. But you apply that level of reasoning and that thinking to customer interaction, you create happy customers. That's why we're all here. All right, Shawn.
All right, I'm going to jump down to audiences next just to try to keep us somewhat on track, which is probably hopeless. I think I'll just go through. I'll just do the same thing again. I'll just go through my list and then you just riff. This seems to be working so far. All right, audiences are one of those topics. It's an inch wide and a mile deep, and we could spend the next 8 weeks talking about audiences. But here what I think are some general guidelines. I mean, the first question to ask yourself is, who can you help, with something that they don't? That's period. Like, don't make it more complicated than that. You might have some hobby. You might have spent a few months going down a rabbit hole or something, and you kind of know, you've made a sense of the landscape for someone who might be who you were or a few months ago. Don't make it more complicated. But it comes down to value. Right? It comes down to you have experience and expertise that somebody else doesn't, and that you could share with them when they need it, when they're interested in it. Might be a perspective, might be an opinion, it might be ideas that you've curated, things that you've found out, might be real expertise that you've earned. Right? But don't make it. The more complicated and weighty you make it, the harder it is to get off the ground. Right? And that's, again, like I said prior to the call, it's a great strategy for procrastinating, but it's not a great strategy for making progress. I started to put together a list of what I consider to be rules in some order, and then I realized I was going to get a bunch of them. So I narrowed it down to 3. Right? If I could just tell you, if we were hanging out and I had 5 minutes to tell you something about audiences, what are the 3 things that I would tell you that I think are most impactful that I've learned? Rule number 1, by far, rule number 1 is you have to love your audience. You don't have to like your audience. You don't have to tolerate your audience. You have to love your audience, plain and simple. There is no way around it. That's where empathy comes from. That everything comes from actually giving a shit about your audience. There's absolutely no way around this, right? You have to want to help that other person, period. And when you look at metrics and results, and it doesn't matter. What you're looking at are people, not numbers. Behind every number that you see is a real person who has real challenges, has real human characteristics. And when you are in love with that person, and it could be like genuine affection, like you meet your customers, and I've interacted with a lot of my customers over the years, and they are really fun people. Like not everyone, of course. There's always some a few treats in the mix, but in general, in aggregate, when you look across your audience, you need to love those people. Often you are one of those people, right? I love marketing. I love everything about it. Right. I love to talk about it. I love to talk to other people who are talking about it, who are doing it. I love it. Right. So I want to be around people who love it too. Right. It's easy. All right. Rule number two, and this is one that's so often overlooked, and it gets in the way of so many great offers and so many potentially great entrepreneurs. Rule number two is that people buy for different reasons. So there are functional reasons, there are emotional reasons, there's social reasons. Sometimes people buy for identity, what their purchases say about who they think they are or who they want to become, about what their purchases say about who they want to be seen by others, right? This is, if you've seen any of the work on value proposition design, the book Value Proposition Design, Canvas, Clayton Christensen's work, this is at the core of it, that people don't necessarily buy for the reasons that you think they would buy. Like I have a dear friend who sells digital courses, and it frustrates that person to no end that the number of people who complete those courses is very low, to the point where it prevents that person from even wanting to sell things, because it has almost this sense of, why bother? Right? If only 15% of the people are going to finish it, why bother? People don't buy courses to finish courses often. Most people buy them for other reasons, for hope, for knowing they have something for later when they're ready to do something. Right? I can't imagine the number of things I've purchased that I'm happy that I purchased that I don't use necessarily. Right? I haven't done the course. I haven't listened to the webinar, whatever it is, but I still am glad I made the purchase. So don't assume people only buy for a specific set of reasons. Now it's up to you to really think deeply about the different parts of your audience and why they buy and their exercises to do that. And we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But for now, just internalize this rule. Rule number three, people like different buying experiences. Some people like fast. That's me. Right? If I'm interested in something, get the hell out of my way and let me buy your thing. Don't put a bunch of barriers in my way and make me read 10 emails over 15 days, whatever. Other people don't like to buy fast. They want the slow experience. They don't want to feel like they're being sold. Okay, cool. And people have different buying criteria. Some people buy primarily with logic or reason, others with emotion. Lots of people, it's intuitive. How does this feel to me? Right? So we have to think about this when we're making offers, because there isn't, and this gets back to the cookie cutter thing. You don't just make a funnel and it just works, because there are real people, real humans who you're interacting with, who have different reasons for interacting with you. Maybe it's a specific need right now or something they're interested in. They've been interested for a period of time. Maybe they want to just go A to B, like just show me what it is and how do I buy it? I want to go right now. Other people, I'm still not quite sure. Like I'm still figuring things out. Take me on a little bit of a journey. So respecting that, to me, the holy grail is to build a system that provides each type of buyer exactly what he or she needs. Right? That's the goal. It is the holy grail. So we may not ever discover it, but that's what we're orienting to. How do I let the person who wants to buy right now do that and feel good about it, without making the person who doesn't want to buy right now feel good about the experience? Right? That's what we're trying to create here. All right, over to you, Aaron.
I want to go back to USP. I'm gonna keep banging on USP for a while because I think it's important and it plays a part in what you just said. But I want to focus on Specifically, you said that you have to love them. You have to love that audience, not like them, tolerate them, right? An exercise, I spend many, many years to this day. I still write a ton of financial copy. And I don't know, maybe once a year over the years, I would open up a G doc and I would title it at the top, like, I do this because dot, 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 or this, like, this is important to me because dot, dot, dot. And then turn off self-judgment, turn off, all the little voices in your head, and just try to fill that page with as big of a list of reasons as you can possibly come up with for why you're in the game that you're in, why you're doing specifically what you're doing, why the product or service or whatever you're offering is the most important thing for you to be doing and spending your time, right? And that is reflected by the love, to use your word, that you have for your audience, because the quality of the solution that you have on offer stands apart from everything else. Your second point, people buying for different reasons. I think that's the part we don't say out loud enough. We have as offer creators, product creators, we have our own list of assumptions. This is the perfect use case for what I do. This is why people come to me. This is how my customer is appropriately motivated to take this step. If you've done enough research and you have enough data, that can largely be correct, but there's always going to be some subset of folks in your universe who are buying for a completely different reason. They're interacting, like you said too, they're interacting with your product in a completely different way. And you need to recognize that, and you need to do everything that you possibly can to cater to those people to make sure that they're surprised and delighted on a consistent basis, so that they have the best experience, just like the people who are exactly in the lane of buying for exactly the reasons that you think they are. On audience specifically too, I get scared really quick thinking about, how do I find new audience? Where are they going to come from? What am I going to say? What's that offer going to look like? And the thing that takes away the fear that I have about thinking about the big questions about audience is research, data. I forget, you might know this, Shawn. I forget where I read it. It was within the last couple of months, but this was like back in the 50s, I want to say. Small town America, there's two shoe stores. One goes out of business and the other one is fantastically successful. So somebody asks the owner of the one that is fantastically successful, what did you do to make your shoe store succeed? He said, well, I didn't buy out of the catalogs that the shoe manufacturers were sending me, because that's what's popular in Miami and New York and Chicago. He's like, I went out into the town plaza, sat on a park bench and just watched people walk by and looked at the shoes that they were wearing. And then those were the shoes that I stocked, because those are the shoes that are wanted, necessary, and important to the people in this town. I'm not selling shoes in New York City. I'm selling shoes right here. So I wanted it right. That's customer audience research of a very specific level that, again, like, we're not selling, I don't know, maybe there's some shoe salesmen on this call. We're not selling shoes in 2024. Maybe you are, right? You're selling a hard product of some kind, right? But what are you doing to truly separate the research, the avatar, big picture across everything? What are you doing to truly separate the research that you're doing to learn that audience, their needs, their wants, their fears, and what you can do to give them the best experience possible? So that's different for everybody, but think long and hard about that. You can, but you can't really spend too much time. You can't spend too much time thinking about your audience and what they truly need, and then trying to adapt your offers accordingly.
It just occurred to me as you were talking to, we should probably talk about why people don't buy as well. And this is obviously a lot of people don't. There are lots of reasons people don't buy. If your offer is not what they want, they don't buy. And if it's, if they can't afford it at a certain price, there are tons of reasons. But one that's overlooked a lot, particularly for anyone who is creating value that is like a DIY model. So course creators, anyone sharing expertise that you've packaged up. This is one that it gets overlooked so often. But what you'll see an email series, a landing page, a sales page, and it's full of proof, right? It's here's, but let's just assume it's you and it's me, and we're like, hey, come, come learn from Aaron and Shawn, and we've done this, and we know these people, and these people say we're great. We say we're great. I say Aaron's great. Aaron says I'm great. Great, 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 great. The buyer, at some point, the reason he or she is there already believes that we know what we're talking about and that the things that we've done are true, like we did them. That's not where the doubt is. They don't believe that they can do it. Like that's where all the doubt is. And this is where empathy and where loving your audience comes from, is to remember that you're not marketing at people. You're marketing with them, right? And if you could imagine seeing the person sitting across from you, I'm going to do this in a way that feels very crass to me, but if I were sitting across from someone who was interested in learning how to create a business, say from zero to something in a year, and I started rattling off, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, on and on, I've done this, and I can teach you how to do it. I'll show you. You can. I've done it. And all these people say I've done it. At some point, that person, I'm going to tell from her body language or his body language that there's something wrong, there's something off. And the thing that's likely off is that it's self-doubt. That's what's getting in the way of many of your prospects. And we don't solve their self-doubt by continuing to hammer away at how great we are at the thing that we're selling. Right? The way that we deal with self-doubt is we meet that person where he or she is, and with empathy, we say, look, I was at that point too. Right? I've been there, only if it's true, of course. I've been there. I didn't get it right the first time. It took like however many times, but over X number of years or whatever it is, I've learned a few things that I think can make it easier for you. And I do believe you can do it because I've worked with other people just like you who have. That's a very different message. That's how we overcome self-doubt, and not in a way that's contrived. This is a perfect entry, which I'm going to hand it to you. But this was unintentional, but a perfect segue into this next major point, which is the critical importance in offer creation in business in general, and being a good, decent member of the human race, of integrity and of honesty and of radical transparency. So why don't you lead off with that, Aaron, and I'll see where I can go with it after.
All right. Yeah, great. Kira, I think I was just scrolling through the chat. Kira mentioned the word vibes about 10 minutes ago, and I want to start with vibes. You think about the transactions that you've made, the things that you've bought in the last 90 days, right? Online, offline, whatever. There were vibes present that made you feel like you were being heard as a potential customer. Your needs were going to be met. This was going to solve the problem. Like compounding good vibes equal purchase, and then a continuation of vibes equals happy customers that buy more things. Right? If you put that on a billboard, right? That's probably one of the most important single things and like the simplest expression of a very important topic that I'll talk about today or over the next couple of days. Create good vibes, follow through, be honest, right? But you're in the business of creating vibes that make people feel like valued and taken care of, and that your product or your service is going to be the solution for them. So what happens when things go sideways? The radical transparency, and this is a topic that I got from, this is a theory that I got from Mark Ford, a very famous financial writer and publisher. Radical transparency, and you see this other places as well. But when something goes wrong, you own it. You communicate with always honesty and forthrightness in all communications with your customers, even with your prospects, right? Radical transparency has a place there before the first sale as well. Your customer needs to know that no matter what, you're in it with them. You're there with them. You're never going to betray their confidence. You're never going to pull the wool over their eyes with any part of your offer, right? Radical transparency is celebrating your wins collectively and owning your failures individually, right? As the creator, as the owner. Over and over again, that becomes a reliable touch point for your entire audience. They know that about you. They know that about your product. They know that about your service. That builds trust. Trust leads to further interaction, leads to further conversion, right? You used to like tribe is a real, Shawn, you and I, like we have all these examples. Like I'll walk through the grocery store and I'll be like, what's the tribe right now? I have this whole like 10-minute thing I can do on liquid death, you know, the water in the can. But they've done a fantastic job of building a tribe of people who don't just drink bottled water. They drink canned water with skull and crossbones on it because they're special in some way. They have something that all the other people who drink water don't, right? So tribe and trust, these are different things, but radical transparency builds a collection of people around you who would run through the wall for you, right? You can never get too far away from that as a dominant thread for how you communicate, whether that's a fulfillment piece, whether that's a sales piece, whatever it is. You need to come to every interaction with your prospect or your purchasers with 100% honesty, integrity, and radical transparency. Now, what you're going to say to that is, well, am I going to miss selling opportunities if I'm spending so much time communicating from a position of radical transparency? No. If you do it, if you position your sales, your CTAs, your further ascension, your upsells, or whatever we're doing today, if it's organic, and this is the magic of the words, this is the magic of the prose that you need to create, or the messages that you're sending, the videos that you're sending, the content that you're creating, right? If it is natural and organic to you, you can lean in and lead from a position of radical transparency and sell at the same time. Like people want to draw a line. I see that a lot, and I think it holds a lot of businesses back. When I'm selling, I need to be in sales mode. And when I'm fulfilling or I'm focused on my retention statistics, right, I need to be in a position, I need to be in a position of, then I can use radical transparency. I don't know. It's a mistake. And I think if we lead with the principles that we know build happy customers over time, we can do much better. Shawn, how was that? You want to pick it up?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that it's so easy to forget and to not even talk about it. That everything starts here, right? You have to have integrity, you have to be honest. Right? I mean, radical transparency, maybe not, right? You don't have to like, Aaron and I don't have to say like there's no big team behind us, right? It's Aaron, it's me, David's been helping out, a couple of people on my support team answer a few emails, and that's it. Like we don't have to go through all the details because maybe you don't care, right? It's not important to you. But what probably is important to you is that there's no persuasion tactics going on here. There's no fake testimonials. There's no like none of that stuff. Like that's not it's not honest. That's not an integrity. We're not lying about what we've done or who we are, nor are we embellishing. Right. So that to me, I mean, I think integrity and honesty are non-negotiable. Radical transparency is probably a spectrum, and it's a spectrum based on what matters to your audience. What do they care about? But it's unfortunately there was for a while, and I don't see this as much now. But for a while there, and I guess it's still out there a little bit. There are sort of subcultures, and there are certain themes in communities you can find on the internet that think it's about gaming the system, right? It's about how to figure out the tricks to make a bunch of money at somebody else's expense. That's not the game, right? Certainly not the game we're playing. That's not a game that you're going to win. You're not going to feel good. Sure, you might make some money in the short term, maybe, but that go rob a bank, right? It's faster, straight to the point. Right? Go hold up a liquor store if you want to do something that's not decent for humanity. But if you are willing to show up with integrity, to be honest, right, to be transparent in as much as it's important, like that's what's going to get you where you want to go. Maybe not as quickly as being nefarious, but over the long haul, it's a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot more profitable to show up and do the right things for people you actually care about. Somebody asked a question earlier. I won't be able to find it. I don't want to spend a lot of time scrolling for it, but it's a really important point that I just want to address. I don't know if it fits here perfectly, but I guess it would be in the idea of having integrity for yourself, which is this, what if you love your audience and they're a bunch of jackasses, right? Like, what if your audience is miserable? I mean, the cliche answer is go find a different audience, but there's a better answer. And this is something that is one of those pieces of wisdom that shocked me. It didn't shock me when I heard it. When I heard it, I could feel it, like something shifted in me. And then over the next 10 years or so, I began to think about how profound the wisdom is. And it's not I began to see how it applied to my life, and I adapted a lot of my business to it, and had profound results. And that it's not something I came up with. It's something I read in a book. It was certainly inspired by, I don't know if it was said directly, but it's a book called Diaminds, Diaminds. It's a portmanteau of the two words diamond minds, like super sharp minds. But the idea is this: success in business is about putting the things that you do exceptionally well adjacent to the people who overvalue those things, not the people who value those things, right? The people who overvalue. This is how you construct a really great offer. I'll give you an example. This is an example from the course I mentioned earlier in the traffic engine, but I have a certain set of skills related to paid traffic, and I could take those skills and I could go to my, a local pizza shop, and I could say, look, let's say you're making $200,000 a year. With my skills, I can increase your revenue by 20%. So you're making $240,000 a year. You can make an extra $40,000 a year. How much are you willing to pay of that 40,000 to me for this to be profitable to you? Well, not a lot, right? That person values my skills. They don't overvalue. Now I could go to a large company, like I worked with Aaron for a period of time, worked with others, and I could go to a company that I could say, okay, I can take this same skill set, but maybe I can only affect your sales by 2%, but that might be millions of dollars, right? That person overvalues my expertise. Now, if you don't have that same level of expertise, don't worry about that. Because there are lots of ways that this can pan out. It doesn't have to be a hard skill, right? You might be really personable, like really likable. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you are a freelance email marketer, and there's a certain type of client who you just resonate with, right? Whatever their characteristics are. You have 10 clients, but 3 of them, they love you, right? There's something about the way you do your work, how you show up. Maybe you're super bubbly with your personality, or maybe you're, super focused, whatever it is. But there's something about the way that you show up that some percentage of the customers you're working with now, your clients, just overvalue that. The magic is to go find those people. Doesn't mean you fire 7 clients and have to start over, but it means that what you want to be on the lookout for are those people who overvalue those things that you do exceptionally well, or that represent who you are exceptionally well. All right, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there, but that advice was so impactful for me, I wanted to share it. All right, we're sort of behind here. We've got 2 more things.
We have
3 things left to cover. Yikes.
We have to argue about metrics before we get.
We do. We'll argue about metrics. We can do that fast. So let's do over delivering value, because over delivering value really is it's about integrity and honesty. So roll with that, and I think I'm not going to have much to say about this. I think you're going to cover this one. So run with it.
So nearly 20 years of experience in financial publishing has taught me a very short list of things that are always true. One of them is surprise and delight. We talk about happy customers and tribe, right? I use the phrase surprise and delight. What do you do after I purchase, or leading to the purchase? What do you do that I'm not expecting that makes me so happy I can barely sit still, right? So that's another list that you need to make. That's another big, deep thinking that you need to do. What is my customer expecting? Here's what I said I'm going to do. And of course, I'm doing all those things 100%. Okay. So what can I do next that they're not expecting, or isn't in the email, the confirmation email that they get post-purchase? And it's like, here's everything that's on the way. We're so excited to be set, right? What are you prepared to do? Then what can you give those folks, right? Brian Kurtz, he's a great friend, literally wrote the book on this. It's called Over Deliver. We should do a book list at some point during these calls this week, Shawn. We should just ping back and forth and be like, these are the books that are most important to us. Anyhow,
that's a good idea.
Over Deliver from Brian Kurtz, transformational book for me. We're talking about honesty, integrity, radical transparency. I mean, Brian Kurtz literally pioneered this as well, right? He's a fantastic dude. He's one of the best people on earth, one of my favorite people. Get the book Over Deliver, read it cover to cover. Take notes, write about yourself and your own ideas, your own business, your own launches, whatever. Write notes in the margins as you're reading it, right? Then go implement something. Try it, come back, write more notes. Use that as a foundational guide for what we're talking about over delivery as a core principle of your business. Now, here's the thing. Don't be cute about it. Don't be hokey. Don't send little, 29-cent widgets. That's not what I'm talking about when I say over deliver. Like, don't do small stuff that anybody could do that when you take a step back and you look at it, it's essentially useless, right? That's not surprise and delight. Do the hard work about thinking about what it is that you can give above and beyond what your core offer includes, what it fulfills, that truly deepens and enriches that experience. That's over delivery at a high level, and that's what you want to shoot for. Now, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be time consuming. Get creative about how you think about it. But when you get that right and you lock in, oh my God, now we have customers who are happier than they ever thought that they could be. And then 3 weeks later, whatever it is, your next offer comes out. They're like, oh, you know what? I've had such a great experience with these folks, with this business. I'd be happy to take this next step with them because every single thing I've received from them has been 100% on point, and they're giving me a bunch of stuff I didn't even expect. How could I have a better experience with these people? Well, maybe if I buy this thing and I take this next step, I'll have a whole other doors of surprise and delight will open to me.
We should have mentioned 11-star offers, but we don't have time for it today. Maybe we'll do it in one of the future live sessions. The only thing I'll add to over delivering value, because I want to jump in and stir the pot in the metrics stuff. Don't forget when you're thinking about over delivering value, don't forget the basics, right? The best way to stand out in any market is to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, right? It's easy to forget that, like, but get all those details right. If somebody buys something, they get a great receipt. If they need to contact support, it's clear how to do that. Like, do the basics. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you do it, the way you say you're going to do it. Then look for opportunities to delight people with little surprises. You don't get bonus points. It's like Maslow's hierarchy, right? If you don't meet the basic needs, the other stuff doesn't matter, right? If you're starving, it doesn't matter if if you're trying to self-actualize, right? So, like, get the basics right, do those really well. Then the little surprises are even above and beyond. And frankly, in today's environment, just doing what you say you'll do well begins to feel like you're over delivering. It's crazy. All right, I'm going to jump into metrics. This is likely going to stir the pot with some people. That's fine. I mean, we're all adults here. Your opinion.
I hope it stirs the pot between you and me. I hope we do.
Oh, okay. Oh, sweet. I think you and I are aligned on this, but maybe not. All right. All right. So from my perspective, and I've run a lot of paid traffic. I've dealt with a lot of clients. I've had more conversations with clients about metrics than I care to. It's months of my life I can't ever get back. From my perspective, there are only 4 metrics that matter, period. And you get to choose. It's really, there are only 3 metrics, or you choose a fourth, right? It's 1 metric. But here they are. From my perspective, the 3 metrics that matter are the cost to acquire a customer, your average order value, and your lifetime value. That's it. If you want to, the 4th metric is you could substitute return on ad spend. Right? Now, some of you are saying, but I don't buy paid traffic. So, like, what relevance does it have? Okay, perfect. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you guest blog post somewhere and you write 10 articles a month, and those 10 articles drive organic traffic to your site. What's your hourly rate? How long does it take to create those 10 articles? Right? Simple math. I always say 5 out of 4 people are bad at math. But that's simple math. Let's just say you want to make $100, and you figure your hourly rate's $100 an hour. You write 10, it takes you 10 hours a month to write those. You just spent 1,000 hours or $1,000 of your time that you could have spent doing something else. So and let's say you get 10 customers, right? 10 people buy. Your customer acquisition cost is $100, right? 10 people divided by the $1,000 that you took to get that organic, quote unquote, free, quote unquote, traffic paid for with your blood, sweat, and tears, right? Now let's assume that those people come to your site and every one of them buys your $100 front end product. Okay, what's your average order value? $100, right? You've now just hit the holy grail, right? You have spent $100 to acquire a customer who paid you $100, meaning you just got a customer for free. Now, some of you are going, this is the dumbest masterclass I've ever been on. He's saying we should spend $100 to get $100. No, what I'm saying is, when you spend $100, and get it back immediately, and now you have a customer, that's when the third metric comes in. What do they buy next? What's your core offer? What's the next offer in the ascension ladder that you've got? Whatever it is, that's your lifetime. And your lifetime value, you need to pick a reasonable amount of time. Maybe it's not based on your business. Maybe it's 90 days. Maybe it's 60 days. Maybe it's 2 years. But if you can get customers for free immediately, it costs you $100, for example, and they give you $100 when they enter your world, and then they continue to spend money with you over time because you're over delivering with honesty and with integrity. Now, see how this all fits together. You now have a business. Right? Now, it doesn't have to be exactly that. Maybe it costs you $200 to acquire a customer. You only get $100 back, but over the next 3 months, you make $300. Excellent. That business works too, right? But these are the only numbers that matter, period. Everything else can be rolled up. This is the worst example. I get this example all the time. And to me, it's the worst example. People say, "Oh, but what about cost per lead?" That's a real measure. If I don't know my cost per lead, I can't run my business. Bullshit. Cost per lead is ridiculous. Unless you're a lead generator, like you're actually buying leads and reselling leads, cost per lead is irrelevant because cost per lead feeds into your customer acquisition cost. Let's assume that it cost me $100 to get a lead that spends $1,000 on the first sale versus a $3 lead that I get no sale for. Which lead is better, the $100 lead or the $3 lead? If you're just looking at cost per lead, you're like, oh, I want $3 leads all day. Really? Do you want $300 leads that spend no money with you all day? That's a fast track to going out of business. But anyone who comes up to me and says, hey, Shawn, I have a business proposition for you. You give me $200 right now, and next Friday, I'll give you $1,000. How many hundreds of dollars am I willing to give that person? The answer is as many as I have, right? That's such a winning proposition. So the reason I get wound about metrics, you can hear it in my voice, I get so wound about it, is people could spend months staring at dashboards that are what I call TBU, true but useless, right? When you know 3 numbers, you can run your business. You can draw your business on a piece of paper with a crayon, right? I spend 10 hours a month writing these blog posts. It's $1,000 a month worth of my time. I get X number of customers from those blog posts that buy this many things in a month. And then 3 months later, they've bought this many things. That's how you understand the business. All right. Where was I wrong, Aaron?
No, it's just you do every time this topic comes up, you go on that same rant. So yeah, no, you're right. I agree with everything that you just said. That's it. You pay attention to those 4, they're in harmony, they're in alignment, you can build a business. Something gets out of whack and you lose sight of it, like you can go out of business, right? I make it even simpler. It's just to CPA and LTV, right? What's my cost to acquire a customer? What does that journey look like? What does that funnel look like? What does that experience look like? And then some time period later that makes sense for the dynamics of your business. Like you said, like what takes place in 90 days, 6 months, 2 years, depending upon what the horizon looks like, the dynamics of your business specifically, what's the LTV? CPA and LTV, if those 2 specifically are in harmony and everything in the middle between the 2 of them works together, you're in business. If it's not, you're not. That's it.
Yeah, I probably should have defined ROAS too. Sorry, it's not ROAS is just return on ad spend, right? You spend, let's say for this, and that's to Aaron's point about CPA and LTV, right? Let's say last month I spent $1,000 on ads, and I don't know exactly what happened, but from that $1,000 worth of ads, I made $2,000. So my ROAS was 2 to 1, right? I spent 1,000 and made 2,000. ROAS can be problem with the reason I don't particularly love return on ad spend, it can get a little bit muddy, but it's fine. Some businesses work with return on ad spend. It's an easy metric. But what matters is that we're not procrastinating. We're not using numbers as a form of procrastinating. That's a perfect segue into principles of testing. I'm going to let you start with this. I don't know I have no idea what you're going to say about this one. I was just curious. So, and just for all of you listening, this is kind of how we do everything. I'm always fast. I learn something from Aaron every time we talk, and we talk all the time. So what's fun to do is we put kind of pins in an outline, and then I'm just as curious as everybody else is. Sometimes like Aaron, like last experience, he knows the riff I'm going to make because he's heard me piss and moan about it a million times. But other times I have no idea. And frankly, I have no idea what he's about to say about principles of testing. It was just something that was on the list that we put together, and it was like, okay, hold on, let's try something. So have at it, Aaron. I'm curious what you're going to say.
In the interest of keeping this simple and digestible for today, like as we proceed, we talk about other things. We'll go deeper. But what I want to say about basic principles of testing today, and again, if you're more advanced, I apologize if this is exceedingly obvious, but it's good refresher, it's good review for everybody to hear this every once in a while, myself included. My imagination runs away with me, and I'm going to test this, I'm going to test that, and then guess what? I'm not testing anything because I'm so backwards on what am I actually supposed to test, right? Which is the first thing I want to say about basic principles of testing. If you're testing more than one thing at a time, you're not testing anything because you can't rely on the data that you're receiving, right? It's the reason why it's called A/B testing, right? You're testing one thing against another, right? Make them, shouts versus whispers. If you're going to test something, actually test something. Don't make small, if it's a long form sales page or a long piece of content, don't test something that's 12 minutes deep. Don't test something that's 30 pages in. Test something that actually is a part of the big idea. It's a part of the hook that you're setting, right? Test things that could actually have a positive impact on conversion if your hypothesis is correct. Don't test little stuff. Test one thing at a time, right? That said, Shawn, you turned me on to the idea of, there's A/B testing, but then there's A/B/Z testing. So I'm going to test A and B, and it's going to be a shout, and I'm going to try and get a result that moves the needle conversion-wise, right? Z then is when I have that winner, I'm going to test something that's wildly and remarkably different from what I tested before and the result that I received before, in the interest of experimentation, in the interest of trying to beat the result that I just got, right? So don't be afraid to think outside the box when it comes to this. This might sound like it's a little bit outside, but this is also a very basic thing, because we can fall in the trap of, oh, well, I beat that with this, so now I'm going to try to beat the new one with this, right? And you just kind of like take little half steps in your testing. Test shouts, but then don't be afraid to go outside the box with the tests as well. What about people that test CTA? Sorry, I'm reading a question from Adisa. Yeah, absolutely. Test CTAs. Test CTAs in emails, test them on your pages, test them anywhere a CTA appears. Test the actual emotional pull of the CTA, what the CTA says. Don't change it. I've seen this, and this is one of the things that gets me fired up. Don't test the color of the CTA button from sky blue to ocean blue, and then to purple, and then to green, right? You're not actually testing anything, all right? Maybe certain audiences, right? They would be like, oh no, the red is so much more urgent and active, right? Well, that's a good way to format a CTA. But I stand on this, whatever you're testing, make sure that you're doing true A/B tests from a perspective of shout, right? There is a time and a place to test smaller components, of course, right? You need to be tactical about how you go about that, but you're going to get the most bang for the buck in testing from a principle standpoint by testing big and testing loud. Shawn?
Yeah, I've got to be careful here because testing's my thing, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time with it. So I'm trying to think of what I could say that's most impactful. So the analogy that I've developed over the years that works for my brain, that prevents most problems, is imagine an onion. There's onion made of like lots and lots of different layers. What most people do is they build up a pretty complicated onion, and then they try to start peeling stuff off to figure out what isn't working. Right? Oh, I'm spending a bunch of money. It's that whole idea. Half of my advertising doesn't work, but I don't know which half. Right? The other way is to do one thing and confirm it works, and then you put another layer on, do another thing, confirm it works. So what I mean, let's just say for the sake of argument that you and I created the Offer Essentials Masterclass last year. We decided we want to go out to paid traffic, and we're going to use Facebook traffic. Actually, if we were smart, we just get Lauren to do it, who's on this call. But let's just assume, in tandem with Lauren and his infinite wisdom, we're going to do Facebook advertising for Offer Essentials Masterclass. Now, what we could do is we could build out a bunch of ads. We could have the landing page. We could A/B test the landing page to see which landing page does better. We could have upsells in the landing page, upsells after we have a bump offer. Then we could have upsells, and then we could have some sequence after purchase that leads to our core offer. Okay, we could do all of that, and we could spend months building that out, right? And then we could figure out, like, okay, does it work? And now we're spending real money, and we're trying to figure out what's working. We're getting a result. We're not sure, right? Now that's a pretty big, complex onion, and we're trying to pull layers off and look under the hood and figure out what the hell is working. Or we say, all right, We eventually want to sell this core offer at this price point with paid traffic from Facebook and we know that's the overall goal. But what we're going to do first is we're going to get a sense of how many people go from the ad to actually buying from the ad landing page, made a purchase, no upsell, no anything. They click on a Facebook ad, they hit a sales page, and they purchase. That's it. That's all we're doing. We're not doing 3 variants. We're not doing anything. We are getting baseline data. Step 1, right? And we get some result. And let's assume because Lauren is so good, we spend $100 and we get $100. Well, now we're in holy grail territory because okay, we're getting customers for free. We might continue moving forward and we might add an upsell. Let's look at that scenario. Scenario 1, we spend $100, over say 3 or 4 weeks, we spend $100, we get $100 back from the purchase. Okay, now we add an upsell, 1 upsell. We're not A/B testing the landing page or anything else now. We add an upsell. What do you know? We spend $100, we get $125. Awesome. All right, what's the next thing that we should do? Right? Then maybe we go back and we're like, okay, well, it looks like maybe we don't like our conversion rate from landing page to purchase. So we start working on the landing. We do a thorough review of the landing page. We're like, you know what? We're going to tighten this up a little bit. Then we're going to run more traffic to that page, no other test. We're going to see. We might have a hypothesis. This is the key for good testing, is you come in with a hypothesis. You don't gather data to gather data. Take an intellectual position. I'm going to do X because I think Y is going to happen. Right? Let's use this example. Lauren's got a great ad, gets to the landing page. We're not getting quite the results that we want. You and I do a review of the landing page, and we both agree that we've got too much logic, not enough emotion. And we agree we're going to add some emotion to the page. What does it feel like when you know how to create a great offer? Cool. We do that. And that's all we do. We don't fool around with an upsell. We don't do any other thing. We just get an answer to that question. Our hypothesis is if we add more emotion to the sales page, we'll get more sales. At some period of time, we're going to run enough traffic to have an answer to that question. Yep, we were right. Or nope, made no difference. Or, ooh, whoa, we went backwards, right? Test one thing. This is another book reference. Read any book you can about Jonathan Boyd. Jonathan Boyd is the creator of the OODA loop. This is the very quick version is Boyd. It's probably one of the most significant contributors to strategic thinking in U.S. history, certainly world history, possibly on par with Sun Tzu. And the OODA loop, Boyd was a fighter pilot, and he had this bet. He called 60-second Boyd. You could start in the most vulnerable position for a fighter pilot, which is at their 6 o'clock position, right behind him, and within 60 seconds he would reverse that position, and did it 240 something times and successfully in air-to-air engagements with not actual combat engagements. But the OODA loop is this: observe, orient, decide, and act. The faster you cycle through the OODA loop, the faster you make improvements. The key to my success, the reason I did so well running paid traffic and did so well for my clients and destroyed so much of the competition, was that I cycled faster than my competitors did. They would test 10 things over 6 weeks. I would test 1 thing in 3 days. I was constantly getting results, constantly getting input that I could act on. That's the key to testing. That's the most important principle, is to do small, tight, focused testing that gets you a result that you can then adapt to, right? You observe, you orient to what you've observed, whatever. You make a decision, I'm going to do X, and then you act on that decision. After you've acted on it, you go back to the beginning of the loop. Now you observe what happened. We added emotion to the sales page. What happened? We got fewer sales. Okay, what does it mean? Let's take that out. Let's start over. Okay. We made that decision. We acted. Now what happened? Right? This is why I can do this for hours. We could do weeks on how to test well. All right. Of course, we're 8 minutes over. Let's do Q&A. We're going to do our best to get through every 15 questions. Like some of these we answered. So I'll knock out the first few here. Then we'll do this. What's time on a webinar? Who knows? We'll tell you after we're finished. Recording, yes. Right. Funnel equals customer journey. Yes. There's no alliteration. Okay. Do you want to start with this one, Aaron? What would you say is a good offer for the home remodeling niche?
Yeah, that was the one that I mentioned about an hour ago. when I was talking about my fence. So you build decks, you remodel kitchens, that person has already made the, you see, there's a couple very specific copywriting questions in there too. I can't wait to get to those. Yeah, no, that person has already made the decision that it's time to do the kitchen, or they're going to put the addition on the house, or they want the nice big deck built. So you can turn them off of that decision, right? But if that's your business specifically, no, I know you know this. I'm not telling you, if you're still here, anonymous. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you're in very strict, direct competition with every other contractor who does the same thing in your area. So how do you stand apart? How do you make your pitch, your free estimate meeting, how do you make it truly unique and valuable to that person, so that, adjusting for price, adjusting for timeline, depending upon how full your book is, right? How busy your calendar is. How do you truly stand apart? So the example I used for the fence was, the materials, the huge team, one day, like all those like nagging things that I had in the back of my head. And I'm like, oh God, this is going to be a pain. This is going to take all week. Like they're going to tear apart my yard. This guy was just like, nope. He's like, it's all sits in the driveway. We come get the pieces as we need them. I'm coming here with 12 guys. It's 3 trucks, 7 a.m. We start. We're out of here by 5:30. And he was, that one was, what, almost $1,000 more expensive than the cheapest quote that I received, but I didn't go with the cheap one because the guy was just like, yeah, we build fences. Like, I'll build you a fence for a good price, right? Didn't move me, right? So home remodeling, plumbing, any sort of like service like that, where there's all these secondary like fears and, that people are, on the fence, kick them off on the fence, right? No pun intended.
That's very nice.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
nice.
Thank you. Kick them off the fence, right? Here's why we're cleaner. Here's why we're faster. Here's why we're so customer service and customer experience oriented, right? Point all that conversation toward them, right? Your email follow-up. Hey, just wanted to let you know, right? Pricing came through, everything's good. The materials are going to be XYZ. And here's what we stand for. Here's how we do business, right? Because we don't want to just do business with you today. We want to set the foundation for great business for years to come, stuff like that, right? So, you play with it and you try it and you see which formats it works best in, right? But then you land on something that truly makes you stand apart, and off you go.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that is always know who your customer actually is and then what he or she is interested in, right? Because, even, like I've done lots of home stuff over the years, right? And sometimes I'm the customer, sometimes my wife is the customer. The things that are important to me, not necessarily important to her. Things that are important to her, not necessarily important to me. If you primarily, if you're having conversations with one decision maker who is being influenced a lot by another decision maker, know who you're really talking to. This is true. I used to do a bunch of lead generation for culinary colleges. This was true for lead gen too, that it looks like you're doing lead gen for college students, but you're actually converting their parents, right? So these are the kinds of nuances that you need to pick up, that you just get a feel for. All right. I'll answer the next one here. So someone said the closest to the Holy Grail would be customized websites based on behaviors. That's not what I was intending to say, so I apologize, Victoria, if I didn't make that clear. Like for me, it's something like, let's say that you have a landing page that it's just an opt-in, straight up opt-in for an email course or something. Let's do that. Straight up opt-in. When somebody opts in, you're making it very clear that you're going to take them on over the course of a week, you're going to send them a few emails where you're going to answer some specific question they have or give them some specific insight. On the landing page, right, when they get there, you could say, hey, thanks, you're going to get these emails, et cetera, et cetera. You could put right below that, if you know right now that you want to, jump ahead and you want to, and these are the questions that you need answered immediately, you can go ahead and skip all the emails. And I have this course, it's $27. You can sign up, whatever. I'm just making up an example here. You can do that. Now, most people will ignore that. Like, no, like I'm here for the emails, right? But some people are like, yeah, that's like, don't send me a bunch of emails. Just like, what's it going to cost me to understand how to fix this problem? Like, give me the goods, right? Sometimes you can do that in emails too, right? Like you send emails to somebody, one per day over 7 days. You're building a relationship, transitioning to a sales message. Like there are people who are reading that first one. They're like, yeah, okay. Like, just how do I buy this thing? I know it's coming. Like, I want to solve this problem, and you can have a link in the PS. Hey, I want to make sure that that you understand that I'm doing this for the right reasons and I really care about, your success. However, if I don't want you to be on my timeline. If you want to jump ahead, or you want to see tomorrow's email, or you want like whatever it is, here's what you can do, right? Like it can be very simple. You can also use segmentation in your list. Somebody signs up, you could do segmentation based on how soon somebody has a problem, right? Like, hey, thanks for signing up for my email. I know you're interested in XYZ topic. If this is something that you want to solve, if this is something you're looking to solve immediately, then all you have to do is click here and I'll take you to the appropriate place, right? If this is something that you're thinking about, that you need more information about, you want to see more of the details, just click this link, and then over the next week or so, I'll send you, the things that I think are most important. Cool. Now I can start making my own journey as a customer, right? That's what I was talking about here. Okay. The next one, just to be sure that I got what Shawn was talking in the beginning of the conversation correctly, when you are promoting your services, it's best to modularize your services with a specific price tag to them, rather than saying, I will fix your marketing issues for X amount of money. So if you're making an offer, you can say, I can do service 1 for $100, service 1 plus 2 for 2, or service. Is that correct? Now, I don't remember exactly what I was saying. So the theme of this, it's not about modularizing products. It's about getting crystal clarity on the thing that you do really well, and putting that next to the people or in front of the people who overvalue that thing. That's really what I was getting to. And I think this is the same conversation, which is, I know after having done this for a long time, I know a fair amount about marketing and what makes things work, but there are particular things in particular ways that I do better than others, that I like to do more, so it feels effortless to me. And there are a much smaller number of people out there who are really interested in that particular skill set. Like I had a conversation the other day with someone who was, really at the top echelons of internet marketing. It was, 45-minute conversation. In that 45-minute conversation, I would say 43 minutes of what I said probably was not particularly valuable, but there was one question that was asked that I shared one perspective on that was something that person hadn't heard before and seemed to be worth all the value. Like that was what the call was about. That's what made the difference for that person. That is what you're trying to do all the time. You're trying to look out at your audience and find those people who want your expertise, your perspective, your vibe. Like that's what they really want. Find them first. Then, hit the bullseye first. And then if that's not a big enough market, expand. But my guess is when you find that bullseye, because those people who overvalue your expertise and your experience are willing to pay a lot more for it, and not a little bit more, a lot more. And these are such crucial distinctions. I feel like we could spend days talking about them. All right, Aaron, here's one for you. What if you're working for a client and the campaign you deliver flops? Would it be honest to give them their money back? Oh, I've got some.
Yeah, why would you do that? That's not honest. That's like, it is. It's, oh, I'm sorry that didn't work out. I'd love to do business with you again. Here, I'm going to pitch you a new idea. I'm going to give you your money back, and then I'm going to expect you to give me that money back a second time so that I can work on a new project. The deal that you have, the conversations that you have with the business owner when you craft a campaign for somebody is completely separate from the result that is generated, right? So why would you give that money back? It's honest. Yeah, you could quote unquote, you could say that it's honest. That's fine, right? But why would you do that? They're two separate things. We're talking about two separate activities, right? There's a business agreement that exists between a service provider and a business owner. There's a description of work. There's an expectation of a timeline. Like packages fail, ideas fail constantly, right? So why would I bow down in front of the business owner and, oh, please, I'm so sorry, here's your money back, right? You're not going to make any money doing that because, 4 out of 5 packages that you're going to do or projects that you're going to work on aren't going to be successful on a huge scale. If you hit 1 out of 5 out of the park, you're doing pretty great. You can be in the Hall of Fame. Why would you give the money back? I don't know. And again,
that phrase I use all the time. What you just said is critically important. I hope everybody heard that. 80% in general, you hear that anyone who knows anything about truly knows something, not the Twitter geniuses. No offense to any of the Twitter geniuses, but not the people who play marketers and copywriters on Twitter, but the people who actually do the work. will tell you 4 out of 5, 80% of offers fail. Right? Period. Like that's just the game, right? If you don't like that game, don't play it, right? Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean 80% of businesses fail. Doesn't mean 80% of ideas fail. It just means you put something out in the world, you don't get the green light to go forward with it. Well, you figure out what needs to be changed and you change it and then you try it again. And then, at some point, maybe it's a radically different idea, maybe it's the same idea expressed a different way, whatever it is, but you get there. But most like this idea that somehow you're going to create $100 million offer, put it out in the world, and it's raining gold coins and unicorns. It's bullshit. That's not how the world works. You get up, you do something, you get a result, you react to it, you do something again the next day, you get a result, you react to it, and you wake up one day and you're a genius because you built a successful business. That's it. The thing I used to this is how I think about your question. This is a phrase I use all the time, and it's probably a weird phrase, but were the decisions that you made intellectually defensible? Right? Period. If you sat across the table from a client and said, "I'm going to do X. I think here's why," and someone would look at that and be like, "That makes sense. Like I see that." If it fails, it fails. That's reality. But I mean, if you half-assed it, phoned it in, didn't do the work, didn't show up, you're like, I never really tried it. Whatever, they're not a great client. Yeah, give them their money back, right? Give them some percentage of their money back if you didn't do your work. But if you had an idea that it's intellectually defensible, made sense, you put it out into the world, they didn't get the result that they wanted, you didn't get the result you wanted them to get, should you give them their money back? Hell no, absolutely not. If you did the work well as a professional, then you deserve to be compensated as a professional. Learn something from it, understand it, get up the next day and go do the next thing, and don't think about it at all. Next person said, book list, please. We'll figure this out. We're gonna have a million.
Let me do a couple just off the top of my head, stuff that we talked about. Over deliver from Brian Kurtz, we mentioned that. Breakthrough advertising, Eugene Schwartz. Obviously, there's just, I can't even really break that down. It's just one of the best books ever written, regardless of your niche or what you're doing. You can learn something there. Ogilvy on advertising is one, especially if you're newer. Ogilvy on advertising, famous book. Obviously, David Ogilvy, one of the best who ever lived. The advertisements themselves that you'll see in that book are somewhat outdated because they come from predominantly the 50s, 60s, and 70s. However, the techniques and principles that are discussed as he annotates those advertisements are timeless, right? And it's very visual. If you're a I want to see it type learner, get a copy of Ogilvy on advertising, because what he's talking about, what makes those ads work, even though it's outdated for today's consumer habits, let's just put it that way. It's a fantastic breakdown of the principles that make those ads work.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a bunch of books. Certainly Perry Marshall's 80/20 sales and advertising is incredible. I'm not going to do any more books because I'll get wound up. Definitely read any bio of Jonathan Boyd, though. It's just a good book. I'm looking at my bookshelf and I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I read a ton. So that's why I'm hesitant. We'll do like an email with some books or something.
Wait, one more. Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. If I like, apart from actual copy creation, but the principles of motivating behavior, right? So like Cialdini influence, of course, like that should be on the list. But Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath, I've probably read that half a dozen times, and every time I read it, I find something new. So yeah, we'll take this book list thing more seriously. We'll put it 40 together in an email, and you can have fun with that. We'll do that later.
I didn't know you'd read that book that many times. That's interesting. Now I'm learning something. All right. So someone asked, can you share some exercises for value proposition? I mean, the best thing to do is go to the website strategizer.com. It's strateegyzer.com. They talk about value proposition canvas. They've got all the prompts. That's free. Don't pay for the subscription. You can get it free. Get access to the prompts for each section. But this is a deep question. I suspect in the future, there's stuff we'll talk about on Thursday that's coming next. That value proposition design is critical. I taught entrepreneurship at Vermont Tech for 4 years. I was a college professor for 4 years, adjunct professor, obviously. Value proposition design was by far, there were 3 pillar skills that I taught students. Value proposition design was by far the pillar skill. Like that was the thing that just transformed it. They won an entrepreneurial contest that they'd never won before. Like there's nothing better. So we'll talk about that. All right. Now we're getting some copywriter stuff. All right. Which is funny. Just for reference for everybody listening, I do not, Aaron obviously is a copywriter, extraordinary one. I do not consider myself a copywriter. I don't write her. but I'm not a copywriter, so I won't have a lot to say on the copywriting questions. Maybe. What should new copywriters focus on developing at the start of their journey? Aaron, this is like an inch wide, mile deep. Actually, this feels to me like a how long is a piece of string question, but I'm curious how you answer this.
Well, I have a pretty handy answer for this because, believe it or not, a question very similar to this comes up pretty frequently. So the first thing is exercise your curiosity muscle. Expose yourself to different media, read as much as you can, go down rabbit holes of research and try to learn, like try to be an interesting person by learning a little bit about as many different topics as you possibly can. And if you see something or you see something on social media or you hear something on the news or you hear your friends talking about something and you're like, wow, that's a weird thing. I didn't know that, but I don't know anything about that, right? Make a note, go home, Google it, spend an hour and just like learn some bullet points on stuff. The muscle of curiosity is something that's a good copywriter needs to have because you're going to be in pitch meetings, you're going to be dealing with creators or business owners that you talk to. They're always going to have, well, what are you looking at? What's compelling right now? What's working in my niche, right? And you need to go into those meetings, you need to go into those situations with something to say, right? Now, obviously, if you're just starting out, like you're not going to be in those meetings, but you can begin to build that facility with how you feed your own natural curiosity so that when you get in those rooms down the road, you know how to behave and you know how to talk intelligently about a variety of ideas. So I mentioned the second one already, and that's read. Read everything. Read everything you can get your hands on. Write every day. And I'm not one of these like, you need to write 5 pages of copy every day or you're not a real copywriter. That's demonstrably false, right? But you need to write. You need to learn how to write in different voices. You need to learn the techniques of persuasion and then how to deploy them in a piece of copy. So you're exercising the muscle of curiosity constantly. You're reading voraciously. You're reading as much stuff as you can get your hands on. You're writing, just have fun with it. Just go write 5 pages on like, sell me this pen type stuff. Not that exactly. That's not the example that I want to give, but begin to put persuasion in action in your writing, right? That's a daily practice. That's something that you, with reps and practice, you're going to build some facility with that. Fourth thing is network. Meet people, talk to people, go to places, join things like this event, right? Ask smart questions, ask dumb questions, just ask questions, period, right? Meet people, go to places, talk, begin to build like, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, and this is what I'm interested in. Do you know anybody who's looking for help, right? Conversations are going to begin organically that way when you begin to put yourself out there. And then the last thing, so that was what, 4, right, Shawn? So the last thing I would say is become a human radar antenna for innovation. What's the new format that's killing it in health and fitness, right? If that's what you're interested in or whatever, right? What's so-and-so doing? Like, just pay attention to those little things out there on the margins that are new or unique or weird that you're seeing in other pieces of marketing that you interact with, and then take that to the ideas that you're beginning to build, right? So curiosity, reading, writing, networking, and then looking for those format changes that could lead to breakthroughs. If you're going to be stronger on some of those things and weaker on some of those other things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 5. With 6 months of practice, you can probably get a low-level spec assignment or something like that, or you can embed yourself with a business at a lower level. But if you kind of get some kind of mix of all 5 of those things, you're gonna make an impact.
I'll add one too, which is funny being a copywriter, but this is a hard one, but develop taste. Good writers have taste, right? And taste doesn't, and it's your own taste, right? Like, and taste is one of those hard things to define, but I'm not a good copywriter. I'm not a copywriter at all. But anything, if anything I write well, and occasionally I manage to put a few words in front of periods that I feel pretty decent about. And when I do that, it's certainly because I have a certain taste in writing. I have a certain taste in stories that I find interesting or ideas. Now, it's not for everyone, right? To be clear, I'm not going to make everybody happy, but develop a sense of taste. You see things you kind of like, gravitate to those things. Just sort of figure that out. And it's the hardest. I don't even know if it's a skill. It's the hardest thing in the world to develop. But when you see something or something makes you feel a certain way, like spend some time with like, what is that? Like I love, yeah, I'll give you two examples of writers, one I love and one I don't. Lee Child, the creator of Reacher and other things, I can't read. To me, Lee Child is unreadable. Now, some of you now are like, screw this guy, whatever. You know, Reacher, the movies, fine. Reacher, the TV show, except for this last season, which was a bomb. But the first season was good, right? But reading Lee Child and his like overdeveloped prose makes me want to scratch my eyes. Now, a lot of people love it. He's a very successful author. However, Elmore Leonard, I love Elmore Leonard's writing. Love it. So that's just taste, right? I'm not right, I'm not wrong, but I have a certain taste for writing. And as any good writer, I think has a certain, you develop some taste. All right, we're at the end of the 90 minutes that we said we were going to do. I think we could very easily spend the next 90 minutes or more going through this list of questions. I think what makes the most sense is let's do 15 minutes more. Anyone wants to stick around, we'd love to have you. And people don't, we understand. But let's do 15 minutes more. We'll try to bang out some questions here. Do you want to do another copywriter one? This is up.
There's a few.
What's your definition of a good copywriter in 2024? This is how long is a piece of string? And just so everyone understands that reference, the how long is a piece of string question to me is an example. It's an unanswerable question, right? Like how long is a piece of string? I don't know. I have no idea. So what's a good copywriter in 2024? I don't know. Someone who gets the job done and gets results. I don't know. Aaron, what's a good, in 30 seconds or less, what's a good definition of a good copywriter in 2024?
Diligent, trustworthy, understands the product, understands the audience, understands what it's going to take to motivate that audience to action. The things that I just talked about too, like a lot of the techniques that you need to deploy to become a good copywriter or to remain a good copywriter don't change all that much over time. Like, yeah, your work becomes more sophisticated, but be intellectually curious, find out about things, be a good networker, read everything you can get your hands on and write as much as you possibly can. Right. So if you're reading the right things and that's represented the correct way in your writing, like you're always going to be good and you're always going to be valuable to the businesses that you work for.
All right. So I'm answering questions here. Sorry. Live. I'll try this one and hand it off to you. So what questions should you always ask yourself before you create any funnels? I'll tell you the exercise I do. I do this every time I write. I do this anytime I'm thinking about an offer. And it's just based on an exercise called the 5 whys. Okay, so I'll write something like this offer is great because X. And then I write, who cares? Like, simple, who cares? Or why does that matter? Some variation of that. And then I'll answer this question again. Well, it matters because, and I write a thing. And I'll ask it again, who cares? Why does that matter? And now it's funny when I say this is completely true. I start to get a little irritated with myself when I do this. It's funny. So, in the irony, I mean, I'm doing this to myself. Like I write down something, like whatever. It could be a piece of writing, or it could be an offer. This offer is important because of X. Who cares? Well, just because of this. Who cares? Now I'm irritated and eventually, on the 3rd or the 4th time, I'm pissed, right, at myself. Yes. But then I write something, blurt something out, and write it on the page, and that's the thing. Like, that's what matters. I do this all the time because that then that shows me the destination that I'm going to. Right? That shows me, and then all the things required to write good copy, to craft compelling offers, to open and close loops along the way. All of that works all of a sudden because I now know what really matters. So before you sit down to create anything, figure out why someone should care and not surface level. Oh, it's because of this. No. Like deep, visceral. How's their life going to be better as a result? Right? What problems are you going to solve? What opportunities do you create? Why does that matter to him? Why does that matter to her? Why does it really matter? Like really dig. And if you half-ass this, you'll get a half-ass result. You'll get likely you'll get a funnel that doesn't perform. You'll get offers that are weak, not compelling. But if you take this seriously and you bang against this a little bit until you see with razor sharp clarity, this is why this matters, then you can get to work. Anything to add to that, Aaron, before we jump to the next one?
No, go ahead. Let's keep moving.
Cool. I'm gonna skip some of these, I think, because some of them I don't. Let's see. Business B2B, on recordings. Yes, those are available.
Hey, I've been asked a couple times about 11-star offer. Can I talk about that real quick?
I don't want to give away 11-star offer yet. I want to save that for a future thing.
Oh my
I think we'll do it like tomorrow, maybe. Like,
Open
if you want to hear
loop.
about 11-star offers, you got to show up tomorrow.
Open loop.
Nice, right? That's my answer. Tomorrow, 11-star offers, maybe. Who knows? There's a there's a functional one here which I'm just going to answer quickly. Someone said, "What was your purpose in proving?" But I assume providing Zoom emails 1 hour before, not upon confirmation. That's just I don't know, ignorance, stupidity. Right? I mean, we set it up this morning. Right? We set up today's call. Stuff like send the email out an hour before. It wasn't. There's no nefarious intent here. It's just, I don't know, me doing dumb shit. I guess it just seemed like it made sense to me at the time. All right, let's pick a good one here. I'm getting obviously a little punch drunk. All right, what if your product doesn't have a USP or every product is the same? I think this is an easy answer. What's your answer to this one?
Is it easy? Is it a razor blade? Does it have declining?
Yeah.
Does it
To
have
me,
declining?
but if your product is a commodity, right? There's only one solution if your product is a commodity, in my opinion, which is just have to be the cheapest, right? If you have a product that there's no USP, everything in the market, you're selling whatever, razors, disposable razors, right? Then if you cannot differentiate your product from anything else, the only differentiator is it's the least expensive.
Well, I
It's a
don't know.
commodity.
I have a slightly, I know we need to keep moving. I have a slightly more artistic interpretation of that question. The copywriter in me would be like, well, why do I spend more, even though I'm buying a razor? It's simple. I could buy from anymore. Why do I buy Gillette and not the cheapos that come 10, 12 to a bag on the bottom shelf at the drugstore? Because I know Gillette is a strong American company. They've been around forever. They have a history. Like, I know it's not going to fail, right? There's a brand, there's a positioning, there's a strength of brand, there's a loyalty. Like, even though we're absent USP or like it's commoditized product, there's something about them that I know, like Gillette's not going to go away. And like, I can always buy razor blades for this because I'm always going to be able to find Gillette because they're the number one. And again, I'm going too far with that simple example, but like, that's the work, right? If you have something that's it's been commodified in the market, it doesn't have a clear USP, it's not that unique or that special. Well, then you need to do the work to peel back the layers of those onions and say, well, how am I still going to make this product stand apart? What's the story that I'm going to tell? It has to be true and accurate, but you need to find that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that, and I know this is it Todd Hawkins? I don't know, the whole Schlitz story thing. It's just funny. This is where I don't have any skill in this area because I just find the whole idea kind of annoying and sort of outdated,
Oh,
just
cold
because so
filter.
much information is available to everyone now. But wasn't it like Schlitz where it was it Todd Hawkins that like went and saw that they steam cleaned their bottles, and he's like, that's amazing, and
Yeah.
and then he's like, no, everybody does it. He's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
not everybody talks about it, right? Like, okay, sure, I mean, you can do some of that stuff, but
No,
at some point it feels
no,
to
no.
me, and I get Harry's does this, Dollar Shave Club does this. Like, there's some great story about, we bought the company that makes the blades and it's inexpensive and it's shipped to your door.
Well,
It's a razor, right? At the end of the
Uh,
day, it's a
that's
razor.
that's
Come on.
that's in vogue though. Like, that's a very modern style, right? Like a Bombas with the socks, right? For every purchase, for every pair that's purchased, a pair is donated, right? Social responsibility. These themes have popped up in recent years where it's like, and again, this is from again, branding is not
This is
good, but
all,
this
yeah,
is
this is value proposition design
yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah.
right? Bombs,
It's
I
like
buy bombs. I have Bombas
it,
socks on right now, but I don't buy them because like I don't buy them because they donate them. Maybe I'm a bad person. I shouldn't say this
so,
in a recording. I don't
but
care
like
about that.
Simon Sinek, start with why, right? That is so powerful a concept, especially in the modern styles that we see. Here's who we are, what we stand for, our worldview, and what we're about. If you agree with that, let's talk about socks. If not, maybe you should move on, right? Like, leading with their why, which is something I know we're going to talk about in a different context as we proceed. But that's incredibly powerful. Number one, because you're immediately pushing away all the people who aren't going to buy from you anyway, and you're immediately beginning to build commonality and like a shared understanding, a shared, a sense of mission, a sense of need, with the people who do agree with that. It's dangerous because you can limit your audiences in some ways, but it's also incredibly powerful because now you have a good firm handshake right off the bat, and we can have a productive conversation when it comes to that prospect, when it comes to that potential customer.
All right, I suppose I'll buy that. I'm trying not to get wound up about your Simon Sinek reference, just because then I'll never, this call will never end if I start yammering about him. Okay, deep breaths. Let's see. Someone said we spewed forth genius at the highest levels. I'm just going to make that a testimonial. Actually, let's answer this question. This is a fun one. Scott says, you both have spewed forth genius at the highest levels. What you speak of, what's real day in and day out. When we do business this way, nothing else matters. You're providing pure value for 3 days. What's your goal, purpose in all of this? Well, it's obviously world domination. I mean, that's why you showed up today, right? Do we have ulterior motives? Yes, we have ulterior motives. They're not going to be ulterior if I tell you what it is. So here's our motive. We could tell you that you should come on some journey with us, and we'll teach you all these things, and trust us, and try to persuade you, and take a million tricks out of Cialdini's books and others. Or we could spend 4.5+ hours with you and just tell you stuff that we've learned. And if you like it, excellent, right? If you want to go more, if you want to do other stuff with us in the future, awesome. You'll know. We won't have to persuade you, right? We don't have to do anything else. We just get to show up and do the stuff that we love to do. Some percentage of you are going to go, this is exactly what I need right now. Most of you won't. Excellent. No persuasion, no nonsense. This is us just being us, doing our thing, and we love doing this. So if you're thinking there's a nefarious pitch that this all coalesces to, don't, just stop that. We know that happens all the time. I get it. We are not, there's no scripted persuasion pitch being directed at you. What you're really experiencing is two people who love this stuff, and we love to teach, and we love to interact with each other. I learn something every time I spend time there, every single time. I love your questions. I know Aaron does, and let's just do that, and let's not worry about other stuff right now. But I'm going to pick a question for you. Let's see. What's a hard one for Aaron? All right, I'm a beginner copywriter. Do you have any tips for outreach if you don't have any credibility yet? I'll just give my one tip. Do the work to get some credibility. Sorry. What's your tip for a beginner copywriter who doesn't have credibility yet?
I just talked, number one, I think let's capture these questions, the ones that we're not going to get to, right? Like maybe there's like a Q&A only or something like that, or like a group that wants to come in. We'll just do questions that have compiled that we haven't been able to get to. So let's make sure we capture all these questions. I just actually, whoever asked this question, I don't see your name, but I just talked about this recently with Shawn McIntyre on the Copy That podcast. And basically it comes down to cold approach. You need to perfect cold outreach, right? The creators, the business owners, whoever that you want to work for, the niches that you're most passionate about, where you have the most experience, where you've been working hard to build some facility. Now you're at a point where you're like, I may be able to deliver some value to this business. I want to pitch them some of my ideas and see if we can get something off the ground, right? You need to practice the art of a cold email. The way I described it to Shawn McIntyre when he and I were talking about it is, when I get cold emails, they have to be short, direct, to the point, and they're focused at me. I don't need to know a lot about you right now. Don't link your resume. I don't need to know everybody that you ever had lunch with. I need a couple short, tight, punchy sentences that tell me exactly what you can do for my business, for me right now. I have headaches in my business, right? I've been trying to manage this copy team. We got this going on. We got that going on. How are you going to step in? Regardless of your level of experience, how are you going to step in and solve problems for me? How are you going to positively impact the bottom line, right? That's what you're pitching me. Do that as clearly and concisely as possible. Maybe I email you back. Maybe it takes a couple of days, but I get back in touch with you. We get on a Zoom. You give me a full, complete pitch of the ideas that you want to talk about. And then one thing leads to another, and we'll go from there. But learn how to approach people out of the blue. And I know for some people, like it's daunting, or it's like, oh shit, I don't know how to write emails like that, or like, the implied rejection of not hearing back from people. You got to put that down. You got to get over that, and you got to literally just learn how to write a fantastic cold approach email and then send it to people, right? You do that enough, you do it well enough, people are going to email you back and you're going to get your foot in the door. What you do next is up to you, right? Do you throw that door open and burst through and take advantage of opportunities? That's on you.
All right, I'm going to answer one last question, then we're going to wrap it up. I did copy all of the questions, though. Just drop those in Evernote, so we'll figure out some way that we can answer questions intelligently here. So here's a question from Ruben. Ruben asks, is AI mandatory? Asking for the AI advocates. It's funny. Like everyone's talking about AI. We didn't talk about AI, and you don't see a word about it in anything that we've sent now, which is odd. This 2024, we're not hammering away at AI. And I consider Sam Woods a dear friend. Sam's brain is a national treasure. He's just a wonderful, kind, intelligent human being. And I've had deep conversations with Sam about AI. Buy any course that Sam offers because they're outstanding, and he's a great thinker. And I see that perspective. At the same time, and maybe this isn't going to be true a few years from now. I'm not an AI expert, but what I notice with AI is that the promise of it hasn't quite yet been fulfilled. And I guess it's the best way I can articulate it. That yes, AI is incredibly powerful. Yes, it writes copy. Yes, you can do all kinds of things with agents and it can do so many things. But anytime I get deep into AI training, right, someone who really knows their stuff, like Sam, I get in there, I realize I actually have to be a really skilled marketer to get any value out of AI, right? Like, and so I think and I haven't thought deeply about this enough to answer this question really well, but what I think my conclusion is at least at this moment in time, that if you are a skilled marketer, skilled writer, skilled freelancer, someone like in that neighborhood, if you have those skills, AI can be profoundly additive to those skills. If you lack those skills, it's a non-starter, right? And this isn't, I realize when I say this, it begins to seem like it's a little bit self-serving, and it can also be interpreted as self-delusional, because I am a marketer and my profession remain intact. But the great AI revolution taking over marketing, it's been a little bit like unicorns, right? You hear about them, but you never actually see one, right? And I know some cool stuff is happening. People are doing some amazing stuff with AI, and I've heard like different things. But when I actually get down to brass tacks to start using it myself, I realize there's a lot of expertise and a lot of work required to do it right that has nothing to do with AI and has everything to do with marketing and offer creation and understanding perspectives and positioning. And all the stuff we're talking about, to me, seems like it opens up the door to the power of AI. And again, this may be self-delusional. That's just how it feels to me. So I don't know, Aaron, do you have any thoughts on AI? That's the best I've got at the moment.
So if you didn't want me to talk about 11-star offers today, I shouldn't let you talk about AI today, because that's kind of like where this is going, right? Oh, how do we defend ourselves? How do we use these tools? So I'm gonna keep my thoughts on that until next time, or maybe even Thursday.
Okay, cool. All right, we went over. We knew we were going to. We still have a ton of questions. Copied all of those questions. I don't know how, we can't promise we'll answer every question. We've got 4.5 hours or the time that we have planned. We're probably going to get closer to 5.5 hours in general. And we will certainly use the questions. We'll refer to those for tomorrow's outline, which we haven't created yet, right? We put stakes in the ground. We know, sort of broadly speaking, the 3 broad topics we want to talk about. Within each one, there are different topics. Well, if we can figure out where to put things, we'll answer the questions. If we don't have a great way to do that, we'll figure out different ways. We will talk about 11-star offers. Either we've made that commitment either tomorrow or Thursday. If you like, I'll leave it at this for today. If you really like what you are hearing today and tomorrow, you want to be on Thursday's call, right? We're going to talk about something Thursday that there's a reason you want to be on the call. That thing that we're going to talk about will not be in the recordings. So if you want to listen to these recordings, and I get it, I do too. That's how I like to consume things. I like to crank up the speed and listen to recordings. Cool, do that. But if you can clear your schedule for Thursday, be on the call Thursday. We'll do a longer Q&A. I'm sure we'll try to wrap things up in a way that leaves everybody feeling better. Feels like you really got a ton of value. And there's something that's not going to be in the recordings that we're going to talk about. I'll just leave it at that. And 11-star offers sometime. All right. Aaron, you want to wrap this up? Just from my perspective, thank you all for listening. You can tell we love this. We love to talk about it. We love to hang out with people who like to talk about this stuff. If we can contribute something meaningful to you from the time that we've spent in the trenches doing this work, then that's a win from my perspective. So Aaron, take us home.
Yep, same thing. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for your time. We know middle of the afternoon like this, that's an ask. You're busy, you have other things to do. We so appreciate you taking some time, spending the part of your afternoon with us. Same drill tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll get started with the second segment. You'll get the email with the Zoom link and on the same cadence, the same schedule as you did today. So everything should be pretty simple. We're looking forward to tomorrow, Thursday. This has been a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun today. I hope you did too. And like Shawn said, if you get one thing that you're like, oh, I want to go work on that, or I want to test that, or that could be useful, then I will have done my job. I want to make you think. I want to make you think in new ways, and hopefully reach greater success. So thank you again, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you, everybody.